father always took us kids to prayer meeting. He took us to prayer meeting at the little church that we went to in Rittman before that, and we were the only kids that ever came to prayer meetings. But anyhow, we didn't object, I don't think so, or at least we did what my father told us to do. And, Cleo Davis played the piano, and it was good.
Bob and I moved to Cuyahoga Falls in 1948, and we visited several churches in the area and ended up here, and this was the friendliest place we had been. And one of my early memories was when we took the class for new members. The last evening, Doc Liebman was teaching it, and he had this little notebook about this wide, and he had numbered lines and wanted each of us to sign our baptismal name and our married name if we were married. Anyway, when the booklet came to me, I think I was number 5 or something like that. Anyway, I wasn't at the tail end, and I said, would it be all right if I used 2 lines? And Doc Liebman looks at me like smart aleck, you know, he says, well, if you have to write that big. So anyway, I did need 2 lines because my full name is Olena Sergaros Humfrider Paulson Stager. And when the booklet came back to Doc Liebman, he looks at it and he looks at me and he grins and he says, you stay after class. And I thought, oh my, I was always a good kid in school. I never skipped after class. He insisted on learning how to say my whole name, and for months afterward, every time he saw me, he greeted me by my full name.
Earliest memories I have would be coming to Sunday school, and we were down in the basement in one of the rooms, and then I remember the thing when they installed the stained glass window in the old sanctuary, and Doc Liebman had all the kids come up for the children's sermon, and we all got to read that it said heaven and earth can pass away, but my word won't pass away on the stained glass window.
The reason I chose this church was that my mother was Presbyterian, my dad was a Methodist, so everywhere I went to a Presbyterian church. And we lived in Kent, and we went to the First Presbyterian church there. And then, so then we decided to come to this church. And my fondest memories probably are Easter. I used to love Easter here. I used to love it when it was so full, and they even put chairs down the center aisles because so many people came.
And out in the narthex.
And I wish that could be like that again.
Fondest memory is of Mr. Costell with the bell. The church had a pull bell, and he pulled it early enough for us to get out of bed and get ready to come. And then the first kids that were there got to pull the bell. So Bob and I would run down here to get to pull the bell.
Way back in 1948, Jim and I were married in the old church. Dr. Liebman had not been here very long when we were married. And so I was one who wanted to have an organ in the church for a wedding, for my wedding. And so we approached Dr. Liebman to see if he might go to another church, where, like the Methodist church or somewhere where it had an organ. And he kept coming back to the house because we were just across the street from the church. And he finally said, how about renting an organ? So we said, okay. Yeah, my parents said that would be fine. We'd rent an organ and put it in the church. And at that time, Irene McKenzie was a pianist in the church. And the piano set up in back of the choir loft. But they put the organ down in front, and he hired an organist to play. And so anyhow, they kept the organ for Sunday. Well, actually, my brother was the soloist at our wedding, and they kept the organ. And I was trying to think of what the organist's name was, but it'll come to me someday. anyhow, they played the organ on Sunday morning for church because it was still there. And so the congregation decided that they should keep that organ.
Since this was sort of the neighborhood church, we lived on Bailey Road where the expressway goes now at the time. And soon after I joined, it was about that same time really, because I was in junior high, I got a paper route, which happened to be this whole area around here. So a lot of these houses, when you talk about a neighborhood church, I got to know people in the church very quickly. Some people were a little more talkative than others, and so I had a lot of conversations.
My dad always told the story about Ralph Whiteman, who they always called Whitey. And when my parents moved in there in 1947, my dad had gotten out of the Army. They lived in Akron for a while, and then they moved to the Falls. And Whitey came over and introduced himself and said, "Follow me," and took him down to his house and said, "Here's the side door. We never lock it. Let me show you the tools I have. You're going to need some tools if you're going to work on your house." And took him down the basement and showed him all his tools and said, "If we're not here, just come in the door, get what you need, bring it back when you're done." Never met my dad before. But I think that was sort of characteristic of the people that came to this church.
We had just moved to Akron, I guess probably 2 years before that. And Paul's boss said, "You have to come to our church. We have a beautiful window and you see outside, you see all the trees and everything." Well, this is where the stained glass is now. You know. Yeah, I mean, they moved it, but that was what he had to do. That's how we came, and we liked it. We stayed.
You stayed.
Reared all the children, brought them up in the church. They were wonderful.
Taught a lot of kids.
About 25 years worth.